Well, hello again. I thought this was quite interesting. There seems to be a bit of a momentum gathering here, and you'll probably be surprised to know that I think this is a very good thing because I'll tell you why as this progresses. But this is the Hill and illegal UFO retrieval programs? Question mark. Congress doubles down on explosive claims. Hill opinion writer. Okay. All right. Now, I was watching The Angry Astronaut yesterday, and he was saying that they bought out. The Senate have asked for any and all materials recovered. Recovered alien spacecraft project information, materials, data be submitted to AARO within the next 180 days. Which I think is brilliant. It's exactly what should be happening because AARO is completely unaware of any of these programs, and so is Congress. And what they're saying is that Congress here is doubles down on explosive claims about these UFO retrieval programs. And I think that's because they've been hearing so much of this stuff from different people. They're saying, well, we know nothing about it. AARO knows nothing about it. What on earth is going on? Let's see what is really there. Is there anything really there? Let's put this to bed once and for all. And I think they're going to find nothing. But if they find something and there's tangible evidence, I'll be happy to accept it. But that's what I think is going on here. They want to know if there really is something going on because they are completely unaware of it.
A recent bipartisan provision adopted by the Senate Intelligence Committee will halt funding for any, quote, secret government or contractor or efforts to retrieve or reverse engineer craft of exotic or non-Earth origin, according to the Hill opinion contributor Mark von Rennenkamp. He says that this...
Okay, so they're going to halt funding for it because they're completely unaware that it's going on. So, so what exactly are they going to halt the funding for? If they don't know what's happening, what programs are involved in doing this, how can they halt the funding? I think this is I think this is a scare tactic because they're going. Anyone that's getting funding for this stuff, and they're probably talking about Bigelow Aerospace. Are not going to get any more money until they can produce some tangible evidence that they're doing what they're saying they're doing.
This language adds credibility to recent claims about the government's efforts to recover craft. He also writes that Florida Senator Marco Rubio's recent comments that whistleblower David Grush is not the only one to come forward with this kind of information adds context to this bill.
The bill tells individuals...
Yeah, but it doesn't name the others. There's one of the others, Lou Elizondo, you know?
With knowledge of these activities to disclose, quote, all relevant information. Mark von Rennenkamp joins us now to weigh in. Welcome.
All relevant information, materials and data for analysis, for peer review, which is what should be happening. If this stuff exists, this is what should be happening, but I don't think they're going to find anything. I don't think they're going to get anything to peer review
the program
because I think it's all science fiction.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, great to discuss with you. Tell us more about this bill and just what you make of the increased conversation around UFOs in the wake of the David Grush interview. Are there a lot more whistleblowers to come forward? A lot more people with actually direct knowledge of UFO, of craft, of people driving the craft, etc.
Aliens? You can say it, Robbie.
No, it's a good question, Robbie. By all accounts, from all the reporting and the chatter that I'm seeing, and I'm focusing on Rubio's recent comments, that some very high clearance holders in very high positions, those are direct quotes from Senator Rubio, have come forward to the Senate Intelligence Committee. We learned just yesterday afternoon that Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, who, along with Senator Rubio, really led the charge on this, is planning to hold an open hearing hopefully, potentially, likely with the whistleblower, Mr. Grush. So my hunch is that Congress would not go through the exercise of putting together such, shall we say, groundbreaking and extraordinary legislation and hold open hearings if there was nothing to this, and if there.
No, I think they would do exactly this to find out if there is something to this. You're going to say, okay, we've got all these whistleblowers. Okay, Grush has said, I've got no evidence. So pointless, really. He's not blowing a whistle, is he? He's just running the same script Lua Elizondo ran a few years ago. So Congress is saying, we've had these people come forward and they've said they're doing all this stuff. All right, if that is really happening, let's see the stuff. Let's see some tangible evidence that this is really happening. Are we spending money on stuff like Bigelow Aerospace research and storing this if it doesn't exist? And I think this will come to a head in the next 6 months. And I think they're going to say it was all nonsense. It was all science fiction stories. There is no tangible evidence. No more money is going to Bigelow Aerospace. And, AARO is going to make the same statement it made last week. There is no evidence now, and there's no evidence there's ever been reverse engineering on recovered alien spacecraft. It's never happened. We have no recovered alien biological or technological material. I think that is what is going to happen. So if it goes the other way, here's the evidence. It's peer-reviewed. It's ET technology. I'll say, okay, happy to accept it. Until I see that, it's science fiction. And I think Congress has just had enough of all this stuff. So they're saying, okay, let's find out once and for all, is this real? And that's what this is all about. It's not because they're convinced it's going on. They want to know if it's going on. They've got people telling them it's going on. And they're obviously spending money on something because they're saying they're going to cut the funding. So let's see what their money is being spent on exactly, and what is actually being looked at.
There were not other individuals who were corroborating Mr. Grush's claims.
Well, let me push back against that. The counter argument would be that we have a Pentagon budget which has failed, 5 consecutive audits. They just accidentally found $6.2 billion lying around that they're sending to Ukraine. And that given how loose the records seem to be kept over there, saying that you want a bill that is going to stop funding for these particular alien-related efforts, it could just be purely performative. What would you say to someone who's thinking along those lines?
That's a good point. Look, I worked at the Pentagon. I know the budget is it's just extravagant. I know funding.
So how much is it, and where exactly is it going?
Goes down rabbit holes, and you're right.
If they're going to stop the funding, they must know where the funding is going, mustn't they?
The audit issue is a big problem. I do want to focus to get to your question on the fact that, and I'm kind of a government nerd. I worked again at DoD and briefly at the State Department, and I don't know if your viewers are familiar with what an inspector general is, but it's basically an internal cop that ensures that an organization is operating legally and above board and correctly. And I need to reiterate this, that the former inspector general of the entire intelligence community, that's 18 separate intelligence agencies, has found the whistleblowers' claims that information was illegally withheld from Congress to be credible and urgent. And that's not something that happens if, this is a law enforcement body. This is a very serious charge and allegation. And that's not something that just comes out of the blue if the Pentagon was trying to fudge some numbers or mess around with numbers on funding.
So much of what we've heard recently is from people like Grush, referencing others in the government who have the direct knowledge. It's always indirect knowledge. Is this a step in the direction of actually hearing from the relevant parties, not from not from the secondhand sources, but from people with direct knowledge of things of UFO interest to the American people?
Yeah, Gravy, it's a really good question. And I'll go back to Senator Rubio's comments. He explicitly said that Senator Rubio, has spoken to individuals with first-hand knowledge. I think that hopefully that answers your question. But another kind of just
well, yeah, but I mean, people are telling him they've got first-hand knowledge, but are they showing him any tangible evidence that what they're saying is true? Is this just fanciful nonsense? Just feed the government some more twaddle, so we can get more. We can get more money out of them.
Piggyback on my previous answer about the intelligence.
And when they ask where the money's going, just tell them it's all secret and we can't tell them.
Intelligence Community Inspector General, there's quite a bit of reporting that knowledgeable individuals who have actually worked on these alleged illegal programs have testified under oath to the Inspector General. And that is a large part of why, and they corroborated Mr. Grush's story, and that's a large reason why Mr. Grush's allegations were deemed urgent and credible, because they're individuals with first-hand knowledge that are corroborating his claims. So much more to come, but I hope that answers your questions.
So the idea is, we know people have spoken to the Inspector General, who you're describing as this credible individual, off the record. We have one kind of whistleblower coming forward in Grush, but we have no one else who's willing to testify directly. Do we expect, given that this is now kind of a semi-public issue?
No one else willing to testify directly. So they've just pushed Grush out on centre stage with a broom, with the same script that they got Elizondo to read out when he was pushed centre stage with a broom 3 or 4 years ago.
It's such a point of national discourse, but no one else has gone on the record. Do we expect them to actually come forward in these hearings and be willing to do so? And if so, why now?
Yep, that's the $1 million question, Brianna. I don't know is the answer.
Yeah, they want to know if any of this is real. That's why now. Because you got Grush and Elizondo, all the hoo-ha about this going on in the media, and Congress are saying, well, what the hell's going on? We know nothing about this. It's all over the media. Okay, let's find out if this is real or not, once and for all. That's what it's all about.
Suspect that there may be individuals that will come forward and testify publicly, or hopefully.
But they're going to have to do better than that. They're going to have to say where they're doing the research on these things, what sort of research they're doing. They're going to have to provide tangible evidence that they're actually doing this stuff. They're going to have to make the evidence available for peer review. And I think, as it goes through this process, they'll find out that there is no material, and there's nothing to peer review, because there can't be that there is nothing to review. That's where it's going to go. That's where this is. 6 months from now, Congress and AARO are going to be saying, excuse me, exactly what they said last week or the week before. There is no evidence of reverse engineering of recovered ET materials, examination or reverse engineering of ET biological or technological material.
The folks that have testified behind closed doors. To answer your question about why this is occurring now, to the best of my understanding, Senator Rubio has said that individuals have been coming forward to the Senate Intelligence Committee for years now. And we saw a slow trickle. This has been kind of slowly working its way into the congressional legislation, and primarily through the, not to get nerdy here, but the National Defense Authorization Act, which is a must-pass bill that goes through every year. And last year's language included some whistleblower protections. The current language that we're looking at now, which is just extraordinary, really is that kind of language but on steroids. It's really a beefed up version of that, and as you guys have probably seen, some of the language in the Intelligence Authorization Act is truly extraordinary.
Can you weigh in a little bit on Kirsten Gillibrand's relationship to all of this? It does. We were talking about this a little bit yesterday, that it did seem like a disproportionate number of actors that were invested in this particular issue happened to be right-leaning. Kirsten Gillibrand is obviously a Democrat. What do you make of her involvement? Senator Harry Reid, his geographic proximity to where so much of this activity historically seems to have gone down, seemed to speak to why he would be interested, but why Kirsten Gillibrand of New York?
Yeah, Brianna, you're getting to one of maybe my favorite elements of the story, and that is it is truly bipartisan. You're right, Harry Reid.
Yeah, but Harry Reid, he said, he was Elizondo's boss, wasn't he? He said, we know it's not aliens, we know it's the Russians.
Really took the initiative here early on. Rubio kind of started the conversation more recently, and then Jill.
See, it says at the bottom there, yeah, I need to just take that out for a sec. Will that red line disappear? That red line disappear? No. This red line here, that red line at the bottom, that's through illegal UFO retrieval programs. That's just on the YouTube thing, because I've got it paused. I can't get rid of it. But of course, if what Congress are saying is that, you know, if this is going on, they're completely unaware of it. So is AARO. That makes it illegal. It's not secret. It's illegal. So they want to find out what on earth is going on. No pun intended.
And really took it and ran with it with some some very, very historic legislation last year, the year before. So it is truly bipartisan. Senator Gillibrand is
Nimitz videos, very poor evidence. This thing they're showing now. This is the thing Corbell showed last week. Said it was a triangular craft, but you know the lights move around in relation to each other, so it's not they're not lights fixed on a boomerang shape. They're individual lights. Probably lingering flares.
Talked quite a bit about this. Not very much in kind of mainstream media outlets. You have to kind of dig to the podcast level and the UFO Twitter level to see her remarks on this. But she is really, I think, leading the charge, and Rubio as well. But to see that pair, and I want to quickly reemphasize or just emphasize that those are two former presidential candidates. They're serious politicians, and they're all in on this. And I'll also just quickly add, Senator Rubio and Senator Gillibrand spearheaded a letter to the Department of Defense that had 16 other co-signers on it. I think there were 7 or 8 other former presidential candidates that signed on to this. So this is a remarkably bipartisan issue. You might not hear about it all the time, but if you dig deeper, some very interesting names pop up that are very much involved in this from both parties.
You hear about it all the.
Okay, well that's pretty much the end of that. So yeah, that's what I think is going on. They're just hearing about this. They're saying, well, we know nothing about it. If it's going on, it's illegal. Where's the money coming from? And we haven't approved it, so you know we'll tug the money on it. So that's going to flush any evidence out, you would think, because people are going to have to produce tangible evidence to maintain any funding, especially if they're external contractors like Bigelow. So I think that's I think this is long overdue. And the only thing I wonder is, in 6 months' time, when they say, you know, we've looked at this, we've had these people come forward and tell these stories, we found there's no substance to them. None of them can produce any tangible evidence. You know, none of us of recovered alien material. No one can produce any tangible evidence of back engineering alien technology. No one can produce any evidence of alien biology being recovered and examined. Are the UFO fanboys going to accept that? Or are they going to stick to their, oh, it's all a cover-up, you know? What did you expect them to say, you know? The only answer they will accept is, you know, that the government has been back engineering recovered alien spacecraft probably since Roswell. They will not accept the government saying we don't have anything. We've looked into it. We've looked at every nook and cranny. We've examined every one of these stories. Not one of them led anywhere. Are the fanboys going to accept that? Now, as I said, you know, if I see peer-reviewed, tangible evidence that someone's back engineering or examining extraterrestrial technology, you know, and I see that peer-reviewed tangible evidence, I'll be happy to accept it. The fanboys are not going to accept Congress saying they know nothing about it. It's all science fiction rubbish, which is what I fully expect to hear around Christmas time. All right, well, thanks for watching. If you've struggled through this video all the way to this point, jolly well done. Maybe I'll catch you again.